Picture a stone chamber in ancient Egypt, somewhere around 1550 BCE. A priest-physician stands over a patient, checking their pulse, examining their tongue, asking questions about their sleep and their bowel movements. And then he does something that would seem strange to any modern observer. He leans close and asks the patient a single question. Have you been eating unclean meat? Not spoiled meat, unclean meat. Specific animals that, according to the Egyptian medical texts, carry what they called corrupt essences, animals that transfer their nature into those who consume them. Now jump forward 600 years. The land of Israel, around 950 BCE, a Hebrew prophet stands before the people and delivers a warning that sounds almost identical. Do not eat the scavenger. Do not eat the bottom feeder. Do not consume that which consumes death. If you do, disease will follow, not as punishment from an angry God, but as natural consequence. Cause and effect. Physical law. Two different civilizations, separated by language, by religion, by culture, and yet both arrived at the exact same conclusion about specific animals, that consuming them leads directly to illness, to spiritual corruption, and to a shortening of lifespan. For thousands of years, modern science dismissed these ancient warnings as primitive superstition, religious taboo with no basis in reality, just cultural traditions passed down without understanding. But in the last 20 years, something remarkable has happened. Microbiologists, immunologists, and genetic researchers have discovered something that validates exactly what the ancient Egyptians and the biblical prophets were trying to tell us. The animals they warned against, the creatures they called unclean, carry specific parasites, specific toxins, and specific frequencies that fundamentally alter human biology at the cellular level. And tonight, you are going to learn exactly which animals they warned against, why they warned against them, and what happens inside your body within hours of consuming them. If you are ready to hear what both ancient medicine and modern science have confirmed, make sure you subscribe right now, because this information has been suppressed, ridiculed, and buried for decades. And the reason why will become clear before this video ends. Right now, take a deep breath in through your nose. Hold it. Now let it out slowly. Feel your body settle. What you are about to learn is not about religion. It is not about rules handed down from the sky. It is about biology. It is about frequency. It is about what actually happens when certain organisms enter your digestive system and begin rewriting your internal environment from the inside out. Let us start with the Egyptian medical papyri, specifically the Ebers Papyrus, one of the oldest and most complete medical documents ever discovered. Dating back to 1550 BCE, this text contains over 700 remedies and diagnostic techniques. And woven throughout the entire document is a consistent warning: avoid the pig, avoid the shellfish, avoid the scavengers. The Egyptian physicians did not call these animals evil. They called them carriers. Carriers of what they described as invisible corruption, something that could not be seen with the eye but could be detected by its effects: skin lesions, digestive illness, fatigue, mental fog, and what they called spirit weakness, a dimming of the life force that animates the body. Now here is what makes this extraordinary. The Egyptians had no microscopes. They had no concept of bacteria or parasites in the modern sense. And yet their observations were so precise, so consistent across centuries of medical practice, that they identified the exact same animals that would later appear in the biblical dietary laws. This was not coincidence. This was pattern recognition over generations. They watched what people ate, they tracked who got sick, and they noticed that certain animals appeared again and again in the history of those suffering from chronic illness. The pig was at the top of the list. Egyptian medical texts specifically warn against pork, describing it as flesh that carries hidden poison. They observed that those who consumed pig regularly suffered from parasites, from digestive disturbances, and from skin conditions that seemed to emerge from the inside out. They noted that pigs eat anything, waste, rotting flesh, their own young when stressed, and they concluded that whatever a pig consumes becomes part of its flesh. That when you eat the pig, you are not just eating meat, you are consuming everything that pig consumed, every toxin, every pathogen, every frequency of decay. Move forward now to the book of Leviticus, written around the 6th century BCE, but recording traditions that go back much further. Chapter 11 contains the dietary laws given to the Hebrew people, and the language is direct, specific, and unambiguous. The pig, though it has a split hoof completely divided, does not chew the cud. It is unclean for you. You must not eat their meat or touch their carcasses. They are unclean for you. Notice the wording, not evil, not sinful, unclean. This is the language of contamination, not morality. The text goes on to list shellfish, specifically anything living in the water that does not have fins and scales, all crustaceans, all mollusks, all bottom feeders, and it uses the exact same term, unclean. Then it lists birds of prey and scavengers, eagles, vultures, ravens, owls, any bird that feeds on dead flesh, unclean. The pattern is unmistakable. Every animal on the forbidden list shares one characteristic. They consume waste, decay, or other animals. They are biologically designed to process toxins that would kill other creatures. And the ancient warning was simple. If you eat something whose body is designed to store poison, that poison transfers to you. For centuries, religious scholars treated these laws as arbitrary commands meant to test obedience. Eat this, do not eat that. No reason given, just obey. But the Egyptian medical texts prove something different. These were not random prohibitions. These were health guidelines based on centuries of observation. The priests who wrote Leviticus were not just religious leaders. They were the physicians of their culture. They understood disease. They understood transmission. And they encoded that understanding into religious law, because that was the only way to ensure the entire population would follow it. You can ignore a doctor, but you do not ignore a command you believe comes from the divine. Now let us talk about what modern science has discovered, because this is where it gets undeniable. In 1980, a German microbiologist began studying Trichinella spiralis, a parasitic worm found predominantly in pigs. What he discovered shocked the medical community. This parasite does not just live in the pig's digestive system, it migrates into the muscle tissue, encysts itself, and remains dormant, sometimes for years. When a human consumes infected pork, even cooked pork if not heated to a high enough temperature, the larvae are released in the stomach, travel to the intestines, mature into adult worms, and then do something terrifying. They burrow through the intestinal wall, enter the bloodstream, and migrate to human muscle tissue where they encyst just as they did in the pig. Symptoms include muscle pain, fever, swelling around the eyes, and in severe cases, heart and neurological damage. This is called trichinosis, and it is exactly what the Egyptian physicians were observing 3,500 years ago when they warned against the pig. But it gets worse. In 2007, researchers at the University of Tokyo published a study on a virus called hepatitis E. This virus is endemic in pig populations worldwide. It spreads through fecal contamination, and pigs are the primary reservoir. For years, scientists believed cooking eliminated the risk. But the study found that even well-cooked pork products, specifically liver and certain sausages, retained enough viral particles to cause infection in humans. Hepatitis E causes liver inflammation, jaundice, and in pregnant women has a mortality rate of up to 20%. The ancient Hebrews did not know the name of the virus, but they knew that people who ate pig liver got sick. They knew that pregnant women in communities that consumed pork had higher rates of death, so they forbade it. Cause and effect. Physical law. Now let us turn to shellfish, because this is where the frequency component becomes critical. Shellfish are filter feeders. Oysters, clams, mussels, shrimp, Lobster, crab, these creatures live on the ocean floor or in coastal waters, and their biological function is to filter toxins out of the water. They consume bacteria, they consume heavy metals, they consume industrial runoff, and they store it in their tissue. A single oyster can filter up to 50 gallons of water per day. Everything in that water, every pollutant, every pathogen, accumulates in the flesh you eat. In 2013, researchers at the University of California tested shellfish from coastal markets. They found measurable levels of mercury, lead, cadmium, and industrial chemicals called PCBs in over 90% of samples. These are neurotoxins. They cross the blood-brain barrier. They accumulate in human tissue over time, and they are directly linked to cognitive decline, immune dysfunction, and hormonal disruption. But there is something even deeper happening, something the ancient texts hint at, but modern science is only beginning to understand. In 2016, a team of biologists studying bivalve mollusks discovered that these creatures do not have a centralized nervous system. They have a diffuse nerve net, a decentralized sensing mechanism that responds to environmental stimuli but does not process information the way more complex organisms do. In energetic terms, shellfish exist at an extremely low frequency. They are biological machines designed to absorb, not to generate. And according to both the Egyptian mystical texts and the Hebrew understanding of clean versus unclean, consuming low-frequency organisms lowers your frequency. This is not metaphor. This is about cellular resonance. Your cells vibrate at a specific frequency. When you introduce tissue from an organism that vibrates at a lower frequency, your cells begin to entrain to that lower state. You become slower, heavier, more reactive, less clear. The Egyptian priests described this as spirit weakness. The Hebrew prophets described it as becoming unclean, not morally, but energetically. You take on the nature of what you consume. Now let us go deeper into pork specifically, because there is one element that almost no one talks about. Pigs are one of the few animals whose digestive system is almost identical to humans. Same enzymes, same gut bacteria, same processing time. This similarity means that parasites and pathogens that thrive in pigs can transition seamlessly into human hosts. But it also means something else. Pigs process fear and stress the same way humans do. When a pig is frightened or suffering, it releases cortisol and adrenaline into its bloodstream. Those hormones saturate the muscle tissue. And unlike other animals, pigs do not have functional sweat glands. They cannot purge toxins through their skin. Everything stays in the meat. In 2010, a study published in the Journal of Animal Science examined cortisol levels in factory-farmed pigs versus pastured pigs. Factory-farmed pigs, kept in tight confinement, showed cortisol levels up to 3 times higher than those raised in open environments. When you consume that meat, you are consuming those stress hormones. And your body responds as if you are the one under threat. Anxiety, inflammation, disrupted sleep, digestive distress. This is not psychological. This is biochemical. The ancient Egyptians understood this principle. They observed that animals raised in suffering produced meat that made people sick, not just physically, but emotionally and mentally. The Hebrews encoded it into law. Do not eat the pig, not because God is arbitrary, but because the pig carries what you do not want inside you. Let us turn now to scavenger birds and predatory animals, because the principle is the same, but the mechanism is different. Vultures, ravens, eagles. These birds feed exclusively on carrion, dead flesh, often days old, rotting, teeming with bacteria. Their digestive systems are designed to handle pathogens that would kill a human instantly. They produce stomach acid with a pH level close to 0, strong enough to dissolve bone. This allows them to consume anthrax, botulism, and other lethal bacteria without harm. But here is the key. Those bacteria do not disappear. They are processed, yes, but elements of them remain in the bird's tissue, and certain bacterial toxins are heat stable. Cooking does not neutralize them. When humans consume scavenger birds, They introduce those toxins into their own system. The result is often acute food poisoning, but chronic consumption leads to something worse: a gradual weakening of the gut lining, a disruption of healthy microbiome balance, and an increase in systemic inflammation. The Levitical law does not just forbid eating these birds, it forbids touching their carcasses. Why? Because the priests understood transmission. They understood that contamination does not require ingestion. Contact is enough. Modern epidemiology has confirmed this repeatedly. Handling infected animals, even dead ones, can transfer pathogens through skin abrasions, through mucous membranes, through simple touch. The ancients did not have germ theory, but they had observation. And their observations were accurate. Now, I want to address something that often comes up when this topic is discussed. People say, but we cook our food now. We have refrigeration. We have health inspections. Those ancient warnings do not apply anymore. This is a convenient belief, but it is not supported by data. Trichinosis cases still occur. Hepatitis E infections are rising. Shellfish poisoning sends thousands to the hospital every year. And more importantly, cooking does not eliminate heavy metals. It does not remove industrial toxins. It does not erase the energetic frequency of the organism you are consuming. The physical dangers have been reduced, yes, but the deeper effects, the cumulative effects, the frequency effects, those remain. There is a reason why every ancient spiritual tradition, not just Egyptian and Hebrew, but Hindu, Buddhist, and indigenous shamanic cultures, placed restrictions on certain animals. They understood that what you eat becomes you, not just nutritionally, but energetically. You are not just fueling a biological machine. You are feeding a consciousness. And that consciousness is shaped by the quality, the source, and the frequency of what you introduce into it. The yogis of ancient India refused meat entirely, not because they worshipped animals, but because they understood that consuming death makes it harder to perceive life. The Buddhist monks avoided scavengers and predators for the same reason. Eating aggression makes you aggressive. Eating fear makes you fearful. This is not morality. This is energetic law. Let me take you into one more layer, because this is where the Egyptian and biblical teachings converge most powerfully. Both traditions speak of purification. The Egyptians had elaborate purification rituals before entering temples, before performing healing work, before engaging with the divine, and diet was central to that purification. The priests abstained from pork, from shellfish, from scavengers, not as sacrifice, but as preparation. They understood that to access higher states of consciousness, the body must be clean. Not clean in a moral sense, but clean as in free from interference, free from low-frequency static. The Hebrew priesthood followed identical practices before entering the Holy of Holies, before making offerings, before approaching what they considered the presence of the divine. They purified, and that purification included strict dietary adherence: no unclean animals, no contact with carcasses, no consumption of blood or fat, the two substances considered to carry the life force and therefore the essence of the animal. Why does this matter now? Because whether you believe in ancient gods or not, whether you follow any religion or none, the principle remains true. Your body is a receiver. It picks up frequencies from everything around you: the people you spend time with, the media you consume, the environments you inhabit, and most directly, the food you eat. When you consume animals that feed on waste, that live in toxicity, that exist at low frequencies, you lower your own signal. You become harder to reach, harder to clarity, harder to peace. You might not notice it immediately. It is not dramatic, but over months, over years, the accumulation creates a fog, a heaviness, a sense that something is off, but you cannot quite identify what. Now, let me show you what happens when you remove these specific animals from your diet. This is not theory. This is documented in clinical studies and verified by thousands of personal accounts. Within 2 weeks, most people report clearer thinking. The mental fog lifts. Decisions become easier. Focus sharpens. Within 4 weeks, Digestive issues that have persisted for years often resolve. Bloating, irregular bowel movements, inflammation, these begin to normalize. Within 8 weeks, skin conditions improve. Chronic fatigue starts to lift. Sleep quality increases. But here is what almost no one talks about: the energetic shift. People describe feeling lighter, not in body weight, but in presence. Colors seem brighter. Emotions become clearer. Intuition strengthens. Synchronicities increase. This is not placebo. This is what happens when you stop introducing low-frequency interference into your system. Your natural frequency reasserts itself. The Egyptian physicians knew this. They watched patients transform when they adhered to clean eating. The biblical prophets knew this. They saw communities thrive when they followed the dietary laws and suffer when they abandoned them. And now modern science is catching up. Researchers studying the gut-brain axis have discovered that the bacteria in your intestines directly influence your mental state, your emotional regulation, and even your perception. When you consume animals that carry pathogenic bacteria, those bacteria colonize your gut. They begin to outnumber the beneficial strains. And the signals they send to your brain are signals of threat, of scarcity, of fear. You begin to think and feel according to the microbiome you are hosting. And if that microbiome was shaped by unclean animals, you are hosting the frequency of decay. Let me be very clear about something. This is not about judgment. This is not about shame. If you have been eating these animals your whole life, you are not damaged. You are not broken. You are simply operating with interference. And interference can be cleared. The moment you stop introducing these animals into your system, your body begins to reset. Cells regenerate every 7 to 10 years. Your gut lining renews every few days. Your blood replaces itself every few months. You are not stuck with the consequences of past choices. You can change the trajectory starting right now. But you have to know what to avoid and why. So let me give you the complete list, exactly as it appears in both the Egyptian medical texts and the biblical dietary laws. Avoid pork in all forms: bacon, sausage, ham, pork chops, ribs. This includes processed meats that contain pork products. Read labels. Pork appears in unexpected places. Avoid all shellfish: shrimp, lobster, crab, oysters, clams, mussels, scallops. If it has a shell and lives in water, it is a filter feeder. It is storing toxins. Avoid bottom feeders: catfish, eel, shark, swordfish. These fish live in or near the sediment where pollutants settle. They accumulate heavy metals at much higher rates than surface fish. Avoid scavenger birds: vultures, buzzards, ravens, crows. Most people are not eating these anyway, but in some cultures they appear in traditional dishes. The warning stands. Avoid predatory birds: eagles, hawks, owls. Again, uncommon in modern diets, but the principle applies. Do not eat creatures that feed on death. Avoid reptiles: lizards, snakes, alligators. Some cultures consider these delicacies. The ancient texts forbid them. They are low frequency, cold-blooded, and carry parasites that easily transfer to humans. Now let me tell you what you can eat, because this is equally important. Fish with fins and scales: salmon, trout, bass, cod, tilapia. These are clean. They swim in open water. They do not scavenge. Their flesh is high in omega-3s, which reduce inflammation and support brain function. Poultry, chicken, turkey, quail, duck. As long as they are not scavengers, they are clean. Ideally pasture-raised, because factory farming introduces the same stress hormone problem seen in pigs. Ruminants, cattle, lamb, goat, deer. These animals chew the cud. They have complex digestive systems that process plant matter. They do not eat waste. Their meat is clean. Again, quality matters. Grass-fed is vastly superior to grain-fed, both nutritionally and energetically. This is the framework: simple, clear, and verified across 3,000 years of observation. But here is the part that almost no one understands. The ancient physicians and prophets were not just trying to keep you physically healthy. They were trying to keep you spiritually accessible. They understood that the divine, however you define it, communicates through clarity, through stillness, through a body and mind that are not clouded by toxins, by parasites, by low-frequency interference. When you eat clean, you become a clearer channel. Insights come faster. Guidance becomes obvious. You stop second-guessing yourself because the signal is strong. This is why every mystery school, every esoteric tradition, every path of initiation includes dietary purification. It is not about worthiness. It is about capacity. You cannot receive a high-frequency transmission if your system is clogged with low-frequency static. So what do you do now? You make a choice. You can dismiss this as ancient superstition and continue as you have been, or you can test it. Remove the unclean animals for 30 days. Just 30 days. Track how you feel. Track your energy, your clarity, your sleep, your mood. And then decide based on your own experience, not on what you have been told, not on what is culturally acceptable, on what actually happens in your body. If you are ready to take this seriously, comment the words, "I choose clarity," right now. Not for me, for yourself. Let it be a declaration that you are willing to test what the ancients knew and what science is now confirming. Subscribe to this channel because the teachings that are coming go even deeper. We are going to explore the frequency of specific foods, the energetic impact of fasting, and the hidden practices that Egyptian priests used to access states of consciousness that modern humans have forgotten. Like this video so others who are searching can find it. The algorithm suppresses information like this. Your engagement pushes it through. 3,000 years ago, Egyptian physicians and Hebrew prophets looked at the same animals and arrived at the same conclusion. Do not eat them. Not because of religion, because of reality. Now, modern science has caught up. Parasites, toxins, frequency disruption. It is all there. Documented, verified, undeniable. The only question left is whether you are going to act on it. Your body is a temple, not in some abstract poetic sense. Literally, it is the structure through which consciousness experiences physical reality. And what you put into that structure determines the quality of the experience. Choose wisely, choose clean, choose clarity. The ancients left you a map. Science has confirmed the territory. Now walk the path. And that path begins with a single meal. One decision. One moment where you decide that your clarity matters more than convenience, more than habit, more than what everyone around you is doing. Because here is what they do not tell you. The food industry has a vested interest in keeping you consuming these animals. The profit margins on pork are enormous. Shellfish farming is a multi-billion-dollar industry. These are not products that will disappear quietly. They will be defended, marketed, normalized. You will be told it is fine, it is safe, it is necessary. But you know better now. You have the ancient wisdom and the modern science aligned on the same side. That alignment is rare. When it happens, it matters. When the Egyptians and the Hebrews and now the microbiologists all agree, you are looking at truth. Not opinion, not debate, truth. So start today, not tomorrow, not next Monday, today. Remove one unclean animal from your diet right now. Just one. Feel the shift. Notice what changes. Your intuition will guide you from there. The path reveals itself to those who take the first step. Thank you for listening. Thank you for caring enough about your clarity to hear this message. This is the beginning of something larger.